My name is Marina Ellis. I'm 36. I always carried my age like a quiet endorsement, proof that I'd survived things, not proof I'd been broken by them. If you asked anyone who knew me in passing, they'd say I had a steady job, a tidy apartment, and 5 years with Nathan Reed. On paper, the kind of life people nodded approvingly at. In truth, the red flags were there for years. I just learned to fold them into the margins like receipts I kept looking for later. The dinner started like so many the two of us had, an annual friends' night at a tapas place that charged for charm and poured wine like a remedy. Nathan liked the space because it let him perform. He'd laugh loud, draw people in, and then quietly redirect the center of attention until everyone agreed he'd made the joke worth the moment. In the beginning, that skill felt magnetic. Later, it felt like a stage trick meant to make me small. He'd been drinking since happy hour. I mentioned, almost casually, that I couldn't make his cousin's wedding next month, a work conference I'd committed to 6 months ago. "Of course you can't," Nathan said, rolling his eyes in a way that made the air between us bladed. "Work always comes first with you." "Marina, this conference could lead to a promotion. We talked about it," I said. My voice was low, so we wouldn't embarrass the others. I wanted him to understand without the spectacle. He laughed. Not the soft laugh that used to signal a private joke, but a loud, mean sound that cut clean. "Please, you've been saying that for 2 years. Face it, babe, you peaked at middle management." The people at the next table leaned in without meaning to. There's a specific hush that falls when someone begins to perform someone else's humiliation in public. Silverware pauses midair, laughter dissolves, and the fluorescent hum of the restaurant focuses like a camera lens. "That's uncalled for," I said quietly. The word landed like a pebble. "Can't handle the truth?" He turned, theatrically, to his friend Maddie and explained, louder. He hesitated to smile at his own joke. "He got upset last week because I told him his cooking tastes like cardboard. It does." Maddie swallowed a laugh and tried to look neutral. I pushed my chair back slowly, the sound of it against tile, a metronome in my blood. "Maybe we should get the check," someone murmured. The manager's face was the same blank mask you see before intervention or fireworks. No, let's discuss this," Nathan commanded. He wanted me to stay, to argue, to show a flinch for him to exploit. I set down my fork. "Nathan, I just want basic respect. Is that too much?" He slapped the table, hard enough for the salt shaker to rattle. He let out a sharp laugh and said, loud enough for the entire restaurant to hear, "Respect for what? Your thrilling spreadsheet skills? Your revolutionary ability to, what is it you do again? Make PowerPoints?" The room went still. A woman at the bar laughed too loudly to cover her embarrassment. Nathan pointed at me. "I'm the best thing that ever happened to your mediocre life," he said, like a benediction. His friends, his audience, obeyed the cue and laughed along. Something unstitched inside me then. I stood up, paid my portion with fingers that felt like someone else's, and said, simply, "Let's find out." I left before he could be clever again. He blinked, as if I had offered him a trick he'd never been shown. That night, I slept on my friend Victor's couch with a bag of clothes and the muffled echo of the restaurant's laughter in my ears. Morning rearranged the world into charts and pragmatism. I was angry, and anger is, for me, clearer than confusion. I scrolled apartment listings with hands that trembled and found a place I could afford alone. A small unit with a balcony and a mailbox I would teach to hold only my things. By afternoon, I had a deposit down. It felt like the first honest paycheck I'd ever taken from my own life. He exploded my phone when he realized I was serious. "Where are you? This is so immature. You can't just leave." I was drunk. It didn't mean anything. "Stop being dramatic." I replied once, "Getting my stuff Thursday at 2 p.m. Please don't be there." Of course he was there. Of course he brought reinforcements. Gloria Reed, his mother, arrived with a look that meant pity arranged for show, and Becca, his younger sister, stood behind her, arms folded in the practiced posture of kin on call. "This is ridiculous," Gloria said, voice glossy. "Couples fight. You don't just abandon someone you love." She tried the guilt ride. Nathan played wounded in sotto voice. "It's nothing," he kept whispering to them like a conspirator who'd been discovered while doing something clever. While I packed, my hands slowed on a folded blouse and a boxed set of my grandmother's dishes. The closet was a small room that had, until then, been cataloged as ours. A flash of paper tucked behind a stack of jackets caught my eye. A credit card statement, folded to hide the balance. It was not mine. Nathan's name was on the header. Read, Nathan. The balance glared at me in ink that seemed to mock my naivety. $15,400. Charges I'd never seen, stores I didn't know, an itemized trail of purchases he'd never mentioned. For a moment, the world stopped being, just the sound of spoons and the hum of relatives arguing. The math clicked into place. Why he was always short. Why he had that practice story about a delayed transfer. Why he'd laughed off my questions about money. He had been hiding a debt and a secret card like a pet in the attic, and then he'd come to the table and call my work boring with the same lips that hid bills. Gloria tried to block the doorway. "You can't take everything," she said, voice thick with the righteous, outraged tone mothers practice. But what they hadn't expected was the bureaucratic revelation that sometimes the abuser is the one with the hidden ledger, financial secrecy being a form of containment. "This is mine," I said. "The TV I bought, my grandmother's dishes, my clothes. Take the rest." I said the words with a lightness that tasted bitter. "You can keep everything else." Nathan's face went white. He made one panicked, almost pleading movement, as if his mask had slipped. I didn't tell him how long I'd suspected little things, the odd comment, the tightness around his jaw when I mentioned promotions. I didn't have to. The paper was louder than both of us. I left with a box of plates and a duffel. I blocked their numbers on my phone. I booked a first therapy appointment the same week, half because it felt like a civilized step, and half because I needed to put words to the way my chest had ached when the room filled with his laughter. On the walk back to Victor's, I found a crumpled receipt against a lamppost, a fragment of a life that felt like evidence, a restaurant name, the place he'd shouted in, a timestamp. I folded it into my wallet without thinking. It seemed small then, almost petty. Later, it would be a stitch in a seam that held the whole story together. Before I shut my door to the apartment I'd rented, I looked at the city and felt something tremble loose. I didn't know the shape of my next day yet. I only knew I would not be on the receiving end of that laugh again without answering for it. That night, in the small apartment, I wrote 2 lines in a notebook. "People will try to make you responsible for their shame. Keep the receipts." The notebook smelled faintly of coffee and something like beginning. The first step away from someone is always small. The true test is whether you keep walking. After that night, my world rearranged itself in ways that felt both terrifying and oddly liberating. The morning light coming through the blinds of my new apartment didn't just look different, it felt different. The silence wasn't oppressive anymore. It was mine. My toothbrush stood alone in the holder, my coffee mug didn't compete for space, and the balcony, with its rusted railing, belonged to me entirely. But with freedom came the echo of Nathan's voice, his insults replayed in my mind like a cruel radio station I couldn't switch off. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I booked a therapy session. Dr. Harlan, calm and soft-spoken, let me talk until I tripped over my own words. Then she leaned forward and said something that landed like a verdict. "Marina, what you've described isn't just fighting, it's emotional abuse. Public humiliation, gaslighting, financial deception. This is a pattern." The word abuse hung heavy in the air. I wanted to reject it, but my body betrayed me. I felt relief, like someone had named a shadow I'd been fighting blind. Nathan's messages didn't stop. My phone buzzed constantly with alternating apologies and fury. "You're being dramatic. Come home. You'll never find anyone better. You're dead to me." I didn't answer. I blocked him, unblocked him, then blocked him again. But abusers are resourceful. Soon enough, he went public. 2 weeks after I left, Nathan began posting on social media. Long, self-pitying monologues about how I abandoned him. Carefully curated screenshots of texts, always cropped to favor his version of the truth. Comments from friends rolled in. "Hang in there, man. She doesn't deserve you." Some mutual acquaintances quietly unfriended me. The smear campaign worked. For a while. I cried into my pillow like a teenager and wondered if I'd made a mistake. But every time doubt crept in, I pulled out that hidden credit card statement, the one with his name and $15,400 debt, and reminded myself, no, this wasn't just love gone sour. This was deceit wearing the mask of intimacy. Still, loneliness has a way of crawling under doors. One night, after a glass of wine too many, I downloaded a dating app. I wasn't looking for forever, just a reminder that not all conversations had to feel like walking on broken glass. That's how I met Isaac Navarro, 29, aerospace engineer. His profile picture showed him grinning next to a telescope, hair sticking out as if the stars had tugged at it. His first message wasn't some recycled line. He wrote, "I've always wanted to know, what makes spreadsheets so calming to people? Serious question." I laughed, an honest belly laugh I hadn't heard from myself in months. I told him numbers were puzzles, and puzzles gave me control when everything else spun wild. He didn't mock me for it. He said, "That actually sounds kind of beautiful, like catching order in the middle of chaos." Our first coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into a lazy Saturday, wandering through a science museum where he explained rocket propulsion like it was poetry. And when he asked about my work, he didn't roll his eyes. He listened, really listened. But Nathan's shadow was never far. A week into seeing Isaac, I noticed someone watching us at a cafe, a woman I vaguely recognized. Later, I learned her name, Maddie, a friend of Nathan's. That evening, Nathan sent me photos, multiple angles, clearly stalker level. 3 weeks. That's all it took for you to replace me? 5 years and you're already crawling back to random guys. You're dead to me, Marina. Actually, no, you're not getting away with this. Then came the voicemails. 17 in one night. Screaming, sobbing, threats buried inside declarations of love. My personal favorite? "I'll destroy your pathetic little life. You think you're safe? You're not." Isaac noticed my hands trembling when I silenced the phone. "You okay?" he asked gently. I wanted to lie, to shrug it off, but the words tumbled out. "That's my ex. He doesn't let go." Isaac didn't flinch. He didn't tell me to toughen up or minimize what was happening. He just nodded and said, "Then we'll handle it, together." I didn't know it yet, but Nathan was just getting started. Because a man who laughs at your pain in public will do worse when you finally walk away. When Nathan spiraled, he didn't stumble quietly. He tore through everything like a storm that refused to burn itself out. 3 weeks after I'd left him, Isaac and I were sitting at a quiet Italian restaurant, a small place with warm brick walls and string lights that made the air feel forgiving. For the first time in years, I felt human again. We were laughing over something silly. Isaac had compared my love of color-coded spreadsheets to NASA's launch protocols, when the sound of the door opening pulled my head up. And there he was, Nathan. His face was red, eyes glassy, shirt untucked. He looked like someone who hadn't slept in days, or maybe hadn't wanted to. The restaurant went still the moment he stumbled in. The hostess tried to block him, but he shoved past. His voice cracked like a whip. "Is this him, Marina? My replacement?" Gasps rippled across the room. I froze, stomach clenched, heart hammering. Isaac calmly set his fork down. "You must be Nathan," he said evenly. Nathan's gaze snapped to him. "Don't you dare say my name. You don't know anything about me." "I know enough," Isaac replied, steady. "I know you need to leave." But Nathan didn't. He lunged toward our table, pointing at me with shaking hands. "You think he's better than me? Look at you, Marina. Mediocre job, boring life, and you're parading around like you're some prize. You'll regret this, both of you." The manager appeared with a waiter. Nathan fought them, tried to twist free, shouting insults, some about me, some about Isaac, some so incoherent they came out as garbled threats. When they finally dragged him outside, the night air swallowed his voice. I sat shaking, mortified, furious, and terrified all at once. My hands wouldn't stop trembling until Isaac gently covered them with his own. "Hey," he said softly, "you're safe. He's gone." That night, I filed my first police report. I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who needed one, but Nathan had crossed a line, and the line wasn't mine to move anymore. If only he'd stopped there. Days later, a website appeared. My friend texted me the link with 3 words. "You need to see this." Nathan had created a page titled marinaisamonster.com. He posted cherry-picked texts, edited screenshots, fabricated stories about me being manipulative and abusive. According to him, I was financially controlling, emotionally cold, a serial cheater. He even posted my salary information with a sneer. Pathetic. She barely scrapes by. He emailed the link to my boss. My HR manager pulled me into a glass-walled conference room the next morning. "Marina," she said, brows knit in concern, "this is disturbing. Are you okay?" I slid across the police report, the screenshots of threats, the voicemail transcript where Nathan promised to burn my life down. HR listened to one of the actual recordings. The room went quiet. Jesus, she muttered. We'll be documenting this, and we'll be flagging his number and email immediately. Still, humiliation clung to me like smoke. I went home and cried until my ribs hurt. Isaac found me curled on the couch, eyes raw. I don't know how to fight someone who invents lies faster than I can breathe the truth, I admitted. He didn't try to fix it. He just sat down, pulled me against his chest, and said, "Then don't fight alone." Nathan's rage only grew. He called my mother at 2 a.m., sobbing that I was unstable, that I'd left him for an escort. Mom called me panicked. "Marina, sweetheart, is it true? Are you okay?" "Mom," I whispered, exhausted. "He's lying. I went on a date with an aerospace engineer who makes me laugh. That's it." "Oh," she said, relief mingled with indignation. "Well, good for you, honey." The attacks turned into false accusations at work, claims of embezzlement, claims I'd sabotaged projects. None stuck. HR had already flagged him, but every new attempt chipped at me. My therapist, calm but firm, finally said, "It's time, Marina. You need to seek a restraining order." I nodded, though my chest tightened. A restraining order felt like drawing a weapon. But Nathan had already declared war, and I had kept every receipt, because when people show you who they are, you stop arguing. You just make sure the world is watching when they do it again. The day of the hearing felt like stepping onto a stage where the stakes were my sanity. The courthouse smelled faintly of bleach and paper, and I clutched a folder so thick with documentation it could have been a novel. Texts, voicemails, police reports, screenshots, even the crumpled restaurant receipt I'd once thought trivial. Nathan arrived dressed in black, somber as if he were attending a funeral. Maybe he was, though not the one he wanted me to believe. His lawyer, a slick man with a tired briefcase, spoke first. "Your Honor," he said, "this is simply a misunderstanding. Two people in a heated breakup. My client may have acted out emotionally, but he never posed a real threat." The judge turned to my lawyer, who slid forward a thick binder. "We disagree. Exhibit A, 156 text messages in 4 weeks, 42 voicemails, a website dedicated to defaming my client, false accusations sent to her employer, a police report from a restaurant incident where staff had to restrain Mr. Reed, witness statements, and finally, voicemail recordings." The judge pressed play on one. Nathan's voice filled the chamber, raw and vicious. "I will burn your world to the ground, you pathetic worm. You think you're safe? Watch me." The judge's expression shifted from neutral to disgusted in seconds. He turned to Nathan. "Did you say this?" Nathan's lawyer tried to object. The judge silenced him with a raised hand. "Mr. Reed, answer the question." Nathan's jaw tightened. I was emotional. "Did you create a website under your ex-partner's name and post defamatory statements?" Nathan stammered. "It was just venting." "Enough." The gavel hit wood. Restraining order granted. 1 year, no contact, including third-party communication. Website removed immediately or face contempt charges. For a moment, silence. Then Nathan snapped. "You ruined my life," he shouted at me across the courtroom. 5 years down the drain for some random stranger? You'll regret this." "Mr. Reed, you are in contempt," the judge thundered. Bailiffs moved, and suddenly Nathan was being dragged from the room, shouting threats over his shoulder. His lawyer looked mortified, whispering apologies to the judge before slipping out like smoke. I sat frozen, hands numb, breath trembling. My lawyer leaned toward me. "You did it. He can't touch you now." The aftermath unfolded quickly. Nathan's company found out about the website. Apparently, it violated their social media policy. He was fired within a week. Without income, his secret $15,400 debt ballooned, and word spread that he'd moved back in with Gloria, his mother. Maddie, the friend who'd sent Nathan photos of me with Isaac, reached out sheepishly. "I didn't realize how bad it was," she admitted. "He's spiraling. Lost most of his friends. Started fights at bars. You were right to leave." Even Becca, his sister, texted me weeks later. "I don't know how you lasted 5 years. Mom and I are about to lose it. You were right." Validation is a strange thing. It doesn't heal scars, but it quiets the self-doubt that keeps them open. Meanwhile, my life began to stitch itself back together. Therapy wasn't just survival anymore. It was growth. Work improved, strangely enough. My boss pulled me aside one day. "Marina, I have to say, watching you stand up through all this, that's strength. We see it." And Isaac, he stayed. patient, steady. He didn't push when I hesitated, didn't flinch when I had trust issues. Slowly, I let myself believe kindness wasn't a trick. The night he introduced me to his friends as his girlfriend, my chest ached, not from fear, but from something dangerously close to joy. One afternoon at the grocery store, I ran into an old acquaintance who'd once believed Nathan's stories. She shifted awkwardly, then said, "You know, Nathan's been telling anyone who'll listen that you orchestrated everything, that you made him look crazy." I smiled faintly. I didn't have to orchestrate anything. I just stopped protecting him from himself. She nodded slowly. "Yeah, we're starting to see that." Looking back now, I can finally admit the signs were always there. The constant put-downs, the public mockery, the way he made me feel like I should be grateful he tolerated me. Abuse doesn't start with fists. Sometimes it starts with a laugh too sharp, a word too cutting, an eye roll too dismissive. The ultimate revenge wasn't the restraining order or the lawsuit still pending. It was this. I found better. Better treatment, better peace, better life. And when Nathan sneered that I'd never find better, well, I proved him wrong.